We have made it not only to a week that felt like a year, but one of the most turbulent weeks that Wall Street has ever seen. As Donald Trump caved in, we saw a couple of strong days in the market this week, but not strong enough to get markets back to, and by the way, your 401k, back to where it was before Donald Trump's tariffs created the chaos and the global markets, starting about 8 days ago. China has now raised its retaliatory tariff on U.S. imports to 125%. Today, the White House announced that Donald Trump is ready to make a deal with China.
The president has made it very clear he's open to a deal with China.
Why is he optimistic that China's going to make a deal or wants to make a deal? If they're not talking, where's that optimism come from?
He's optimistic.
Well, that's okay. That seemed to be enough to revive investor confidence. This morning, Donald Trump posted, quote, "We're doing really well on our tariff policy. Very exciting for America and the world. It's moving along quickly," end quote. Well, it's moving along quickly is the only part about that is true. The rest of it is gaslighting. There does not actually appear to be a tariff policy, at least not one that can stand the test of being in place for more than a few days. And Americans aren't buying Donald Trump's nonsense. In fact, speaking of buying things, you know, that thing that keeps our economy running? Consumer sentiment fell for the fourth straight month, according to the University of Michigan's Gold Standard Consumer Survey. In a statement, the director of the survey said, quote, "Sentiment has now lost more than 30% since December 2024 amid growing worries about trade war developments that have oscillated over the course of the year. Consumers report multiple warning signs that raise the risk of recession, expectations for business conditions, personal finances, income, inflation, and labor markets all continued to deteriorate this month," end quote. CEOs are raising the alarm. JP Morgan Chase's Jamie Dimon is predicting a 50% chance of a recession. Today, Jamie Dimon said, quote, "The economy is facing considerable turbulence, including geopolitics, with the potential positives of tax reform and deregulation and the potential negatives of tariffs and trade wars, ongoing sticky inflation, high fiscal deficits, and still rather high asset prices and volatility," end quote. In an interview with CNBC, BlackRock's Larry Fink issued this stark warning.
"I think we're very close, if not in a recession now."
Now, this becomes important because we still have inflation, and you fight recessions and inflations completely the opposite way. Talking of a recession, by the way, it's not new to Donald Trump. The Wall Street Journal reports that Donald Trump, quote, privately acknowledged that his trade policy could trigger a recession, but said he wanted to be sure it didn't cause a depression, according to people familiar with the conversations, end quote. It's worth pointing out once again, despite all of Donald Trump's lies to the contrary, Joe Biden did hand him what the Economic Policy Institute called an historically strong economy when he took over in January. None of this had to happen. Trump's erratic tariff stuff, which I'm hesitant to call policy because that would be an insult to policies, have fund managers wondering if Donald Trump is going insane. Tom Lee, the head of research at FS Insights, a financial analysis firm, said, quote, "In the last few days, we've had many conversations with macro fund managers, and their concern is that the White House is not acting rationally, but rather on ideology. And some even fear that this may not even be ideology. A few have quietly wondered if the president might be insane," end quote. Peggy Noonan, a speechwriter for Ronald Reagan, wrote plainly in the Wall Street Journal, quote, "Trump scared people he hadn't scared before. Mr. Trump this week placed one of the biggest bets of his life, but it was the world's money that was in the pot. That was some kind of ugly, reckless thing to do," end quote. And the ugly, reckless thing leading to a plunging stock market was dismissed until the bond market went into a free fall. Now, this is important, and I understand that most people don't think about treasuries in the bond market. But think about it this way. Bonds are basically confidence bets on America and the safety, the security, and the stability of the American dollar. You buy a bond, you're basically investing in the American dollar and writ large in America. Buying bonds are a sign of confidence in America, particularly when money is pouring out of the stock market. When stock prices go down, institutions, sovereign wealth funds, governments take that money and they buy bonds. And bond prices, because lots of people are buying them, typically go up. Donald Trump didn't announce his 90-day pause on most of his tariffs as part of some brilliant strategy. He did it. He backed down because investors were selling U.S. government bonds while investors were selling stocks. Doesn't usually happen that way. Donald Trump has said over and over again that his tariff plan will bring manufacturing jobs back to America. What is Donald Trump's manufacturing strategy? How do you build things in America when you can't import the raw materials? The Trump team talks a lot, but they answer no questions. What is Trump's strategy to bring manufacturing back? A factory has to be open in a place, and people have to work there to produce a thing. So who are the people who will build those factories and work in them? What will they build? What does Donald Trump want American workers to manufacture? Are they sewing soccer balls? Are they screwing iPhones together? Overseeing the machines that manufacture socks? Where will these factories be? Names of cities in Ohio, in Michigan? When will they be built? When will they open? What does success look like here? We don't have any answers to any of these questions, not a single one. Instead, we have economic chaos and confusion on a global scale thanks to one man who could answer those questions if he had an actual plan. But global investors do not seem to believe that there is a plan. And here's what's ironic. The Trump team holds a medieval view of power and strength. They think strength is putting tariffs on penguins and menacing Canada and taking over Greenland. But in the 21st century, power is economic. And America built this system after 2 world wars decimated previous world powers. And America has effectively ruled this system since creating it. The American dollar is the de facto currency of the world. The world trades in American dollars. The price of gold, the price of oil, it's all priced in American dollars. We are the reserve currency of the world. Other countries see America as a safe investment because we are, the last 80 days notwithstanding, a confident and stable democracy. And all of that creates conditions for a dynamic free market economy that is nimble and can adjust to changes. We are and have been a leader in all the things, science, medicine, technology. We have the lingua franca, the language countries use to communicate with each other. It used to be French, now it's English. Because if you want to do business internationally, you are going to do it in English. That's why kids in China are required to study English in high school, and yet American kids aren't required to study Mandarin. That's a superpower. And Donald Trump is shattering it. The tariff actions have been disorderly and chaotic. They are unsensible. The Trump team has offered conflicting explanations for the haphazard tariff scheme. We've watched many of them learn details about it in real time in front of cameras from reporters. If it were about opening a negotiation on trade, then it's illegal to do that under an order for national security, which is what Donald Trump says this all is. It's not his purview to be doing this. It's Congress's. If it's about making factories great again, Donald Trump should be able to answer where those factories plan to open, what they plan to produce, how much the workers will get paid. Because if there were a real strategy, those questions would have answers. Joining us now, Robert Reich served as Secretary of Labor under President Bill Clinton. He's a professor of public policy at UC Berkeley and the co-founder of Inequality Media. Bob, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. I am incensed by the stupidity of what we are watching. This is not an ideological discussion. This is not a difference in policy. There is no policy. It's just stupid.
It's just stupid. It's just incoherent. There is nothing there. And this is, I think, the major irony here is that when Donald Trump took over, the economy, as you said before, Ali, was pretty good. Most of our foreign policy was not perfect, but it was pretty good. The economy and foreign policy and the country were going in the right direction overall. And now we are in a complete crisis, a crisis that is created and manufactured by Donald Trump, by one person. How in a democracy can one person do this much damage in this short amount of time? It's extraordinary.
And here's the irony. People, manufacturing workers, are both Democrats and Republicans, and some have no ideology, some political ideology, and some are nonpartisan. There are lots of times where Democrats will argue for tariffs and to protect certain industries, and other times when Republicans will. This is not this is not partisan. This is nonsense. There are Republicans who don't like this, and they're very worried about their political prospects. And there are Democrats who would like certain industries protected, but this is not the approach to take.
It's not the approach to take. And we know this from history. I mean, we know that in 1930, Congress did something like this. It created a massive tariff system, and it made the Great Depression much worse. It's not as if we don't know the facts. It's not as if we don't know history. It's not as if Donald Trump or people around him are completely ignorant. I mean, what they seem to be trying to do is bust the entire system. And why they are trying to bust the entire system, it's like what they're trying to do with our democracy. Why they are trying to bust it is a mystery. I mean, why would you try to bust something that is actually working pretty well? Why wouldn't you try to improve it? This is what is so tragic and so unnecessary.
Let's talk for a minute about the bond market, which is not something we generally talk for a minute about. Most people go through their entire lives without thinking about the bond market. It affects them because it affects the interest rates you pay on your mortgage and things like that. Generally speaking, the strength of the American dollar, the faith in our bond market has not been questioned. It comes up every now and then when we talk about breaching the debt ceiling and our credit ratings suffer a little bit. But generally speaking, that has not been a thing. It became a thing this week. It was very unusual. Something happened. It seemed to be a signal by the world's biggest investors and countries and sovereign wealth funds that was, we're a little worried about America and its stability.
And that's, I think, the point. It's the worry about America and its stability, because all of these investors, these all over the world, they want to go into safety. I mean, the Treasury bills were the safest place you could put your money in the entire world, much safer than putting it under your mattress or putting it into gold. I mean, it was the safe place. And the fact that global investors in the United States and elsewhere, started to pull their money out of Treasury bills indicates that there is a profound lack of confidence in where the United States is going. And that is, in turn, creating all sorts of chaos. I mean, a lot of CEOs who might otherwise think about building a manufacturing plant, they say, wait a minute. I'm not going to do that because I don't know the future. Right. The future is now really uncertain.
That's right.
You cannot run an economy on that degree of uncertainty.
What countries would give to have the stability that America has built up over these years, and we are squandering it this week. Robert Reich, always good to see you, my friend. Thank you. Robert Reich served as the labor secretary under President Clinton. He's a professor of public policy at UC Berkeley, and he's the founder of Inequality Media.